Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 18 of the Game Audio Vlog. My name is Adam, and today is day 4 of the series that we started on Monday, which is how to make a full sound design of a 2D game using Unity and Wwise audio software. I hope that the fact that this is day 4 and we're finally just now making a sound on day 4 teaches you something, or at least reminds you of it, that the creative process actually takes a little while. You have to get everything set up, get all your ducks in a row, get a plan and a map of where you're going before you even actually make anything that's worthwhile. Because if you don't know where you're going, you don't have all your tools in the right place, it's really hard to make something. And that's something that I had to learn again recently. Games isn't what I do full time, it's something that I do on the side. And to actually make headway in it, I had to start getting up early in the morning and making small wins every single day to build into something that is actually something big and something meaningful to me, which it ended up actually being what we're walking through right now. Then I'm walking you through the process of how I made it, kind of in the way that I actually made it. So I went up in one morning and made a laser noise, and that's all I did for the entire day. And as I'm stepping through these videos, that's how I did the process for myself. So I hope that teaches you something if you're creative and it's hard work actually getting something out of your hands that you feel is worthwhile, or it takes a whole lot of effort. Don't feel like you're alone, especially if you don't do this for like 8 or 10 hours or 14 hours a day, and where it takes all of your energy. It feels like you're not alone in that process. This is something that everybody goes through, and it just takes a while to make something ridiculously awesome. It doesn't happen all at one time. So enough of that lecture and that rant. We're going to get right into it of how to actually make your first sound, which in this case is our player's laser sound. Because the demo project we're working on is called Into the Space. It's a Galaga clone. You are a player ship that then blows up asteroids and other enemy ships. So if you go into Wwise, I've got some images here of what the entire process looks like and how I did it. You can look for your actor mixer hierarchy, which in this picture on the right hand side is my description of that. The actor mixer hierarchy, for lack of a long explanation, just to give you a really short explanation, is essentially where your sound effects live within Wwise. It's not where your music lives or where your mix buses live or anything like that. It's just your sound effects. And within that actor mixer hierarchy, you have a default work unit, which you can have multiple work units, but this is a small enough game, we're just going to work with one. I've also provided some folders for my enemy ship noises and player ship noises, just to have some sort of structure. And then within my player ship, there's another actor mixer that contains 3 tone-generated laser noises. I have made those sounds by making new sound effects by right-clicking the player laser actor mixer, and then under that I can create new children that are simple sound effects. And then you'll see up in the top graphic I have a content editor for each one of those sound effects. And then on the right-hand side, the top right-hand side of that picture, there is a button that says Add Source. You probably cannot see that unless you have a full-screen video, and I'm assuming probably a full-screen video on a computer screen or a TV, because it's such a tiny little button, it's hard to find. But if you click Add Source, you can use a tone generator, and then I've done that essentially 3 times over with different varying tones. So for my high, I have a sawtooth wave. For my mid, I think it was just a standard sine wave for my mid and my low. I think I might have used a square wave for one of them, but regardless, it doesn't necessarily matter a bunch. I'm going to go through what I did and why I did it. So my high is a sawtooth wave because I wanted it to buzz and cut through. I put punch there, but really I wanted it to cut through everything so that you know a laser is happening. A sawtooth and a high end sounds a lot like a standard laser noise. Your mid is kind of your body of your laser. It gives the presence of what the laser is and what it sounds like. Your low then adds some depth, some thickness, some punch. A sine wave is probably really good for your low end, especially with just bringing it all together. So I've given you an example, some frequencies, some random selections too as well. So if you randomize your laser, it doesn't sound the same every single time. I would highly suggest that you randomize at least a little bit on most of the effects you use, just so it gives it a slightly different tonal quality every time a shot happens. You can see how I've mixed it a little bit here, and you've actually got an envelope for your duration as well. So this is how I'm actually going to walk through most of the stuff we're doing, giving you some screenshots and giving you a basic idea of what I'm doing. I don't really want to walk you through step by step, and I kind of want to hesitate in giving you exactly what my laser sounds like as well, because I explained this in a couple videos ago. I feel like if you don't have a map of where you're going, then you don't know how to get there. But at the same time, I don't want to give you a complete step-by-step, click-by-click of how to do this and copy exactly what I'm doing for two reasons. Number one, I don't want my videos to be 40 minutes long of you sitting here watching me click around. And number two, I don't really want you to copy exactly everything that I'm doing. And it's not a thing where I don't want you to copy me. I don't care. This is not something that's going to be commercially released for me. I want you to have the ability to create your own thing. So I kind of want to give you an idea of what I'm doing, but then I want to encourage you to go into Wwise yourself or your own DAW or whatever you're using and make your own tones and find out what sounds good to you. Because this is where we start getting subjective. You can ask people all day long what sounds good to them to find out what a quote-unquote good sound is. And there are some rules about what makes a good sound and what makes a bad sound. But once you get past the basics of it, it starts getting really subjective and opinionated really quickly. So I really want you to develop your own ear, to find out what sounds good to you and get excited about it. And then once you're done, post it online, ask for some feedback, and be ready for some solid criticism. And if you don't agree with the criticism, then I want you to learn that if you like it, stick with it. It's fun. It's totally cool. This is a subjective art form and medium, and that's awesome. And I don't want you to just copy what I've done and then not know why it sounds good or why it sounds bad. Go out there and do it yourself and learn about it. So, again, after that rant, we go from making some sound effects to actually making events to put them in the game. So the way that Wwise works is that you have some sound effects in general, then they correspond to these events, which is this screen, and then the events get tied into the game through hooks. So the way to make an event happen, to structure an event, is that you go into the Events tab within Wwise, and then you make a new play event that happens again within the right-click context menu. There's a bunch of different events you can use. We're just going to talk about the simple standard play event for this. So when you make a play event, you can name it, and then you go into the event editor, which the screenshot is of. You'll have, under number 1, you'll have your first event, which will be play, which will not have an object tied to it. I believe it's a right click here again, that then you can attach an object, which is your sound object, which in this case is enemy laser high for me. And then within 2 and 3, number 2 and 3, you want to add 2 more play events. Because they're not nested play events, but you have 3 play actions. There you go. 3 play actions within one event. All of these tones will all play at the same time when the event is called within Unity to Wwise. So play event or play action number 2 is enemy laser low for me, and play action number 3 is enemy laser mid for me. Then I want to direct your attention down to the bottom of the screen where we've got the contents editor, and I've played around here a little bit with voice volumes. What I would encourage you is when you're making sound effects, don't try to mix everything so it sits in the game correctly at the first go around. What you're hoping to do here is to either have your headphones on or have your monitors going and make a laser that sounds good against itself. So you want the high, mids, and lows to all sit well against each other. Once that's done, you put the laser away and leave it until all of the rest of your sound effects are in your game, and then you can mix all of the individual sound effects against each other. This is at least the way that my brain works. This is the way that my workflow happens and how I process things, because I'm used to doing either recorded music or live sound, where you want to get all of your microphones in place, you want to get all of your instruments in place, and kind of have everything sound good by itself, and then reference it to the greater mix. You can go back and forth a little bit for sure, and make sure that you're not just not hitting the mark at all and that things sound very similar to you or whatever. But I would highly encourage you to make things sound good by themselves first, and then fit them in everywhere else. you can always go back into your individual specific sound effects and make them, tweak them to fit within the full mix itself. But if you go through and makes everything sound good individually first, you have a higher likelihood of not having to do a whole lot of work later. So within the action properties, which is kind of the middle of your screen, you'll see I haven't added any delay because we want the laser to shoot immediately. There's no fade in time for the exact same reason, and then the probability is at 100% because we want the laser sound to happen when the laser gets fired every single time. These, I think, are the default within Wwise when you make an event. So once you've done that, you want to go into your sound bank manager, which on Windows is F7. I'm not exactly sure on what it is on a Mac, but I'm sure that you are brilliant enough that you can figure that out. So this is, again, the right side of the Wwise screen. As you see it, you'll have your events tab still available to you, and if you have not already, you want to make a sound bank. And then you will drag your event into the lower area where it says Hierarchy, Inclusion, and Sound Bank Editor. You also want to check what platforms and what languages that you want to use, which in this case we're using the basic version of Wwise, so all I have available is Windows and English. And then you'll want to generate your sound bank, and if you haven't already, I would go into user settings and tell it to generate header files as well, because you may need those sometimes, especially if you're working in code. You'll need some header files and header information for Unity to work with. But once you're generated, then you want to click Save, and once you've done a Control-S or just saved after you've generated, then Unity should show all of your sound banks automatically if you've done everything correctly. You'll see within your Wwise picker, which is the top left image I have right here, I have my sound banks, default work unit, and core, which is what I named my sound bank. If you don't see the Wwise picker and you've already integrated Wwise and Unity to work together, then you want to go into your window menu, and Wwise picker should be at the very bottom of that. That's, again, within Unity we're in now. So if you haven't attached your sound bank to the game yet, then what I've done within Into the Space is I just click and drag the core sound bank to the main camera. That actually causes a bug to happen, which I haven't gone out of my way to fix yet, which is the game should work with the sounds that you make on the first pass. But then once you die within the game, the developer coded a button where all you have to do is click or hit R to reset the game and play again. If you hit R, then the way that I have pulled in the sound bank to the main camera here means that the sound effects will not play the second time around. You'll have to actually stop the game and then restart the game to make the sound effects completely work. Because of that, or that is because essentially that the sound bank is not loaded properly, I believe, or it doesn't get destroyed properly and then restarted properly. And what would fix that is going into code and figuring out where exactly to load the sound bank, how to exactly unload the sound bank, and that's just not something that I've done, at least within the context of this game yet. If that's something that you want to go out of your way to research, to look into, and figure out how to fix, feel free, then please tell me, and then I will make a video and post about it and talk about how brilliant you are. I would love to do that. So the next step, once you've got your sound bank loaded and everything, you want to go to your project tab, which is next to your Wwise picker, and find the folder called SS Prefabs. That's under the Assets folder, which is then going to your 2D Space, your example folder, your complete project folder, and then SS Prefabs. Then you want to find the thing that I've highlighted, which is the player ship laser, which is the green laser. And then you will go into your inspector, and this is actually the easiest sound effect that we'll do probably in the entire game. I believe, I could be wrong in this, it's been a while since I've futzed with the original project file of this, but I believe that there was a sound file attached to laser to begin with. If a sound file exists in any of your prefabs after you have integrated Wwise and Unity and dragged in your sound bank to the main camera and that whole 9 yards, you can go ahead and delete it. I would wait to delete it until you're putting something in its place so that you know something existed there and you know that you're replacing things. But if for some reason a sound does not exist on the prefab, all is fine and dandy and great. You go to add component, which is the bottom button there. Then you go to Wise, and then you want to add a new AK event. So the AK event, which is the thing that you'll see on the bottom just above the add component button, is the thing that calls your Wise event to happen. So you want your event name to be Player Laser, which should already exist. If you have generated your sound bank correctly, all you have to do is click on the event name and then call and Player Laser, and then you can just have it trigger on start. So as soon as the laser is created, the sound will play, which the laser is created for every instance it appears in the game automatically. So you don't have to do anything crazy with coding or anything like that. Just make it trigger on start, and then the event name is Player Laser. Save it, play your game, and then the one sound that you should hear is your Player Laser. And that's it. It's that straightforward and simple. So hopefully that has worked out for you. If you have any issues or errors or are confused or things aren't working correctly, feel free to comment below here or hit me on Twitter at AdamTCroft. But that's all she wrote for that. So we will be back again tomorrow with a different episode. We're going to go back to the Audio Friends Friday format and show you some people that you should be looking into. And then on Monday, we will be back into working on this again. I believe we're going to make an enemy laser sound. Either that or we'll be working on our engines. I don't recall. I don't have the bullet pointed list of what I planned on right in front of me, unfortunately. So thanks for watching. That's episode 18.
19.
We'll see you again tomorrow.
Say 19.
That may be beyond my abilities at the moment.
10 plus 9.
It's 19.